rude waiter dumps soup on Joker, and the whole restaurant laughs. But what no one knew was that laughter would cost them everything. He just sat there, motionless, as the burning soup dripped from his lap, steam rising like smoke from an unlit fire. The waiter smirked, customers chuckled, and phones began to record. To them, it was just another viral clip, a nobody being humiliated. But to him, it was the moment the world reminded him why the Joker was born. They thought they were mocking a broken man. They had no idea they were waking a sleeping storm. Subscribe now, because what happens next isn't just revenge. It's a lesson the city will never forget. The restaurant fell back into its chatter, pretending nothing had happened, as if humiliating a stranger was part of the evening entertainment. Arthur sat still. His trembling hands clutched the napkin, eyes locked on the crimson stain spreading across his lap, a waiter's smirk, a few muffled laughs. That sound, laughter. It used to mean something different to him once, but tonight it sounded like a knife dragging across glass. He didn't shout, he didn't curse, he didn't even look up. He simply whispered, "It's hot," in a voice so calm that it unsettled even the laughter for a second. Then, with the gentleness of a man still pretending to belong in this world, he stood, placed a few crumpled bills on the table, and walked out, leaving behind the smell of burnt soup and something heavier, silence. Outside, the city glowed in neon, beautiful, loud, and heartless. Arthur's reflection stared back from a puddle, distorted by the rain. For a long moment, he saw the reflection of the man he tried to forget, the grin, the chaos, the laughter that once made the city tremble. "No," he muttered to himself, "not again." He tried to walk away, but as he did, a voice had echoed in his head, soft, mocking, familiar. "Why let them walk away, Arthur? Why always you?" He stopped. The reflection seemed to smirk back at him. The Joker, that shadow that never really left, was whispering again. Inside his apartment, the clock ticked louder than usual. He sat by the window, replaying the moment. The heat, the laughter, the humiliation. Every detail carved into him like a slow, cruel memory. He had been trying so hard to heal, to stay normal, but the city didn't want normal. It wanted a spectacle. It wanted blood disguised as comedy. He turned on the TV. The headline already flashed. "Man gets soup dumped on him. Crowd bursts into laughter." The video had gone viral. The comments rolled in like bullets. "LOL, this guy didn't even fight back. Clown without makeup. He deserved it." He laughed, a slow, hollow laugh, the kind that doesn't escape the throat but echoes inside the mind. "Deserved it," he repeated, like a curse. That's when he saw it, the name tag from the waiter in the video, Derek. He paused the screen, zoomed in, memorized the face, and just like that, the mask of Arthur began to slip. The city thought it had laughed at a victim, but it had just reawakened something it couldn't control. The next evening, the restaurant was busier than usual. Laughter, wine glasses, and the fake charm of people pretending to be happy. Derek, the waiter, strutted around, soaking up attention. He had become a small-time celebrity overnight for humiliating a nobody. But somewhere in the crowd, a new customer had arrived, unnoticed. A man in a plain black coat, face partly hidden, voice quiet and kind. He ordered a single cup of tea, nothing more. When Derek approached, smirking like he'd done the night before, he didn't recognize the man. The lighting was dim, and the voice, calm, almost poetic, didn't sound familiar. "You work hard," the man said softly, watching Derek pour water. "Long nights. Rude customers. Must be tough." Derek shrugged. "Yeah, part of the job." The man nodded. "Still, I think you spilled something on someone yesterday. Soup, wasn't it?" Derek froze. Yeah, some idiot. He dash. Before he could finish, the man leaned closer. That idiot used to make people laugh. Now he makes people remember, and then the laugh. Quiet at first, then deeper, that unmistakable chilling sound that once haunted Gotham. Derek's blood ran cold. He dropped the jug, glass shattering on the floor. The man across from him slowly lifted his head, revealing a faint red smile drawn across his lips. Not painted perfectly, just smeared. Raw. Real. Joker? Derek stammered. Joker smiled wider. Oh, you remember me. I was afraid my soup cooled you down too much. The restaurant went silent. Every pair of eyes turned. The laughter that filled the room earlier now suffocated it. Joker stood, straightened his coat, and said softly, "You see, Derek, respect is a funny thing. You never know you've lost it until someone reminds you." He didn't pull a gun, didn't cause chaos. Instead, he simply poured the tea, boiling hot, onto Derek's hand. The man screamed, but Joker's voice cut through it, calm and poetic. "Now we're even." Then he placed a small card on the table, a Joker playing card, and walked out. No one dared move, no one dared laugh. Phones were still recording, but this time no one uploaded. Because this wasn't comedy anymore, this was something else, something that made people question their own cruelty. Outside, Joker disappeared into the rain, humming a slow, broken tune. For the first time in years, his laughter wasn't madness, it was truth. But what no one saw was the second cup of tea he had left behind on the table. Inside it, floating gently, was a folded note that simply read, "The soup was only the beginning." The next morning, the restaurant was everywhere on the news. But this time, the laughter was gone. Headlines screamed, "Joker returns. Waiter burned in mysterious incident." The city buzzed with fear and fascination. No one knew how he came back, or why. But deep down, they understood something terrifying. Gotham's favorite ghost wasn't haunting comedy clubs anymore. He was haunting cruelty itself. Arthur watched it all from his small apartment, sipping cold coffee as his reflection smiled back from the dark window. The city's panic was almost comforting. They had mocked him once, laughed when he fell apart, but now they were listening. For the first time, he had their silence. Still, a part of him hated it, hated that it had come to this again. He had promised himself after Arkham that Joker was gone, that Arthur Fleck could live quietly, maybe even honestly. But peace, he realized, isn't meant for people like him. The world doesn't let clowns stay quiet. It drags them back on stage. His phone buzzed, an unknown number. He didn't answer, but a message appeared seconds later. "You're a hero, Joker. People finally see it." Attached was a link. A video. He clicked. A shaky recording showed Derek, the waiter, bandaged, trembling, crying into a camera. "I'm sorry, I didn't know who he was. I didn't mean to." The video had millions of views, comments pouring in. He deserved it. Finally, someone fights back. Joker's not the villain. He's the cure. Arthur's breath caught. The cure. That word clung to him like perfume and poison at once. He looked up at the flickering bulb, whispering, "Cure or curse?" Later that night, as he walked through the rainy alleys, graffiti began appearing. Crude drawings of a red smile, a playing card, and a name in crimson paint. Joker Lives. The movement had started. The city had turned him into an urban myth again, the hero of the broken, the avenger of humiliation. But Arthur knew better. He wasn't anyone's hero. He was just the reflection of what they'd created. As he crossed Fifth Avenue, he noticed a luxury car parked by the curb, tinted windows, engine humming. From inside, a voice called out, "Mr. Fleck!" Arthur froze. No one called him by that name anymore. A man stepped out, slick suit, umbrella, and the calm arrogance of someone who'd never faced consequences. "You've caused quite the scene," he said. "Our clients don't like unpredictable noise." Arthur tilted his head. "Clients?" The man smiled. "You don't think this was coincidence, do you? That little waiter didn't just happen to humiliate you. People wanted you broken again. They wanted the clown to rise. Gotham loves its monsters, Joker, and they pay well to keep them alive." Arthur's face stiffened. He stepped closer. "You're saying someone set me up?" The man's grin didn't fade. "You were the product, Mr. Fleck. We just gave the audience a reason to miss you." And before Arthur could respond, the man slipped back into the car and drove away, leaving him standing in the rain, heart pounding with the realization that even his revenge had been scripted. He wasn't reborn, he was used. That night he returned to his old mirror, the one cracked through the center, splitting his reflection into two, Arthur and Joker. His fingers trembled as he traced the crack between them. They made me again, like a puppet with a painted smile. He looked at the drawer. Inside, the cheap red lipstick, the old card deck, the revolver he hadn't touched in years. For a moment, he hesitated. Then slowly, deliberately, he reached for the lipstick. A single streak of red across his face. A single laugh escaping his throat, but this time it wasn't madness. It was pain wrapped in irony. He walked out into the night, face half painted, half bare. A man split perfectly between Arthur and Joker. His next stop wasn't random. It was the Gotham Elite Charity Ball, hosted by the same corporate syndicate that had funded the restaurant chain, and, apparently, his humiliation. The ballroom glittered with champagne and diamonds. The powerful laughed, always laughing, while the city's poor starved outside. And in the middle of it all stood the man from the car, toasting under golden lights. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "tonight we celebrate the restoration of order." The lights flickered, the microphone screeched, then a distorted laugh echoed through the speakers. Familiar, spine-chilling, and unstoppable. The room fell silent as every screen in the ballroom flickered to life, showing the viral video of the waiter dumping soup on Arthur, followed by Derek's tearful apology. Then the words appeared in crimson text across the screens. "Order is the real joke." The man from the car turned pale. "Where is he?" From the balcony above, Joker appeared, mask on, half of his face glowing under the spotlight. "Order," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You sell humiliation as entertainment, and call me the clown?" Security rushed forward, but by the time they reached the balcony, he was gone, leaving behind only a single playing card taped to the microphone. On it, a new phrase was scrawled in red. "Laugh now, cry later." As panic broke out, sirens echoed outside and the media swarmed in. Arthur, or whatever was left of him, disappeared into the city's veins once more. But later that night, when the man from the car returned to his office, there was something waiting on his desk. A cup of soup. Still warm, and beneath it, a handwritten note. "You wanted a show. Here's your sequel." The city didn't sleep that night. News anchors spoke in trembling voices, police scanners screamed through the air, and every television flashed the same image: the Joker's half-painted face, frozen mid-laugh above the words, "Laugh now." Cry later, Gotham's wealthy locked their doors. Its poor whispered his name like a prayer. But somewhere in the chaos, Arthur Fleck sat quietly in a rundown apartment at the edge of the city. The laughter finally gone. His reflection in the cracked mirror looked exhausted, almost human again. The paint had faded. His eyes were sunken, his hands trembling. The night's events played back in his mind, and for the first time, he felt the weight of what he had done. He had wanted justice, not a revolution. He had wanted respect, not worship. Yet the city had turned him into both a symbol and a monster. He turned on the radio. The host's voice broke through the static. "Joker's message has spread." Protests across downtown, people wearing red smiles on their faces, chanting his name. The government's blaming him for inciting chaos. The city's in flames again. Arthur's hand gripped the edge of the table. "No, "That wasn't the joke," he whispered. But deep down, he knew it was too late. Once a symbol leaves your hands, it belongs to the crowd. And the crowd never laughs for the same reason twice. Suddenly, a knock echoed through his door. 3 soft taps, then silence. Arthur hesitated before opening it. A woman stood there, mid-30s, rain-soaked, clutching a small notebook to her chest. Her eyes weren't afraid. They were sad. "Mr. Fleck," she said quietly. "I'm Sarah." Derek's sister. Arthur froze. She stepped inside without waiting for permission, dripping water onto the old wooden floor. "I'm not here for revenge," she said. He's alive." Burned, scarred, but alive. Arthur nodded slowly. "I didn't kill him." "I know," she whispered. "He told me what happened. He said, you looked calm, like you didn't hate him, just taught him something." Arthur looked down. People only learn when they're hurt. Isn't that what this city taught us? Sarah studied him for a moment, then placed the notebook on the table. "Derek used to laugh at people like you, like us, but that night he saw something in your eyes, something broken. He said he couldn't stop thinking about it." Arthur hesitated before opening the notebook. Inside were sketches, not of faces, not of pain, but of smiles. Dozens of them, each one trembling, imperfect, almost human. "He drew these while he was healing," Sarah said softly. "He wanted to understand your smile." Arthur's hands trembled as he turned the pages. For a brief moment, he saw himself not as the world's villain, not as the monster in the mask, but as a mirror, reflecting everyone else's cruelty back at them. "I didn't want this," he murmured. "I wanted the world to stop laughing at the wrong things." Sarah nodded. "Maybe you made it look at itself." But before he could respond, the sound of sirens began to grow louder outside, dozens of them. Then, through the window, flashing red and blue lights. Sarah's eyes widened. "They found you." Arthur stood, calm as ever. "They always do." He looked at her, then at the notebook, and smiled faintly. "Tell him, I said the joke's over." Sarah grabbed his arm. "You can still run." But he shook his head. "The city doesn't need me to run. It needs me to end the show." He walked to the window, the rain painting streaks across the glass. The siren stopped. A voice shouted through a megaphone, "Arthur Fleck, or the Joker, you are surrounded. Step out with your hands up." Arthur laughed softly. "Hands up, always a punchline." He turned back to Sarah, eyes softer now. "You know the funny thing about a joke?" "What?" she whispered. "It only works once." He stepped out onto the balcony, the spotlight blinding him. Thousands of eyes looked up from the streets below. Police, journalists, bystanders, protesters wearing red smiles painted across their faces. The world that once ignored him was watching again. Arthur raised his hand slowly, the rain washing the remaining paint from his face. The crowd gasped, seeing, perhaps for the first time, not a clown, but a man. And then he smiled, a real one. Gentle, tired, human. He whispered into the night, "You wanted laughter? Here's the last one." A single shot echoed. The city froze. For a moment there was silence. Then, one by one, people in the crowd began to wipe away their painted smiles. The chant stopped. The laughter stopped. All that remained was rain. Days later, Gotham's news reported the story in fragments. Joker dead in police standoff. Arthur Fleck, terrorist or teacher. Movement fades as city mourns. But one photo spread quietly online, taken by someone in the crowd that night. Arthur standing on the balcony, face tilted upward, rain running down his cheeks like tears, half clown, half man, smiling through the storm. And weeks later, when Derek, the waiter, was finally discharged from the hospital, he found a package waiting on his doorstep. Inside it was a single playing card, scorched around the edges. On the back, written in black ink, were 3 words: "Don't laugh." Listen. He stared at it for a long time before setting it down on the table beside a cold cup of soup. And somewhere in the city, as thunder rolled in the distance, a faint echo of laughter drifted through the night. Not manic, not cruel, but almost peaceful.
Because maybe the real joke was never about laughter at all. Maybe it was about who laughs last. If this tale made you feel something, hit subscribe and join us for more dark cinematic stories that linger long after the final laugh fades.
Because in our world, every smile hides a secret.